Welcome back to Southpaw Picks, and you're here with your host Charles, and this is UFC Fight Night, Volkov versus Rozenstruik, and we are coming back after a week off of MMA action. You know, every so often we get these bye weeks, but prior to that week off, we were coming off a profitable event at the Holmes VR card, profiting 4 units, going 7-4 in predictions. We hit the public parlay of the week. Also take a stab on the Chase Hooper fight not going the distance, and I fortunately did not take the stab on Chase Hooper himself, man. And I knew he was gonna win. It felt it in my bones, and I just couldn't go through it. But I figured if he was gonna win, the fight would finish. So we hit a little plus 100 stab on that, and then not to mention threw some change on Ketlin Vieira to win in the main event. Now, although we had this bye week. And prior to the Holly Holm card, I said I went smaller on unit sizes because we're up 50 units for the year. So I went small on sizes. We got to pick our spots. It's a marathon. We're going to get to 100 units. I was this close to just, putting up a lot of units on this card just because we had the week off. But no, we got 12 straight weeks of action and great spots coming up. So although 14 fights here, there's only a few spots that I really like. And I'll give you my opinion on some of the live dogs, because there are a bunch of live dogs on this card. So, without further ado, let's get into the main event. Alexander Volkov versus Jairzinho Rozenstruik. Two, I would say, top 10-ish, top 8 heavyweights currently in the UFC. These guys have a couple things in common as far as losses, right? Both sharing losses to Cyril Gane, both sharing losses to Curtis Blades. Now, I also want to get into the fact of the matter is that Jairzinho, to me, the older fighter here, the smaller fighter here, horrible with the volume, really and truly needs the KO shot. And I know a lot of people are going to, I would say, resort to saying that this is very similar to the Derek Lewis and Volkov fight, where Volkov was winning the majority of the fight and then gets caught at the end. You see, those are these instantaneous moments where things can go wrong, right? He was so confident. He wasn't afraid of Derek Lewis in that third round, and Derek Lewis popped him with a shot he didn't see coming. Threw the naked kick, and Derek Lewis covered the distance. But to me, Derek Lewis is a much bigger physical human being than Jairzinho. Jairzinho, to me, seems a bit undersized at the heavyweight division, and although he does have the power, I just don't know if he has enough power in that regard to put out a guy like Volkov. As you've seen, Derek Lewis, most knockouts in history, was one of those guys to do it. I don't know if Jairzinho is going to follow down that same path. How I see this fight going, I think Volkov is going to be too big in there. He's going to stick out the front kicks. He's going to use his jab. He's going to parry a lot of Jairzinho's strikes because Jairzinho does not throw at volume. He stays so content with just standing there waiting to counter. And I feel like he's just not going to have the avenues here to hit Volkov. And also, if we're going to come to a situation where if this fight ends up on the floor, for some reason, I do believe Volkov has the advantage there. So I got the size advantage. I got the grappling advantage. And I do believe Volkov even has the striking advantage here. Yes, he hasn't looked good in his last few fights. But, it's been a weird one. Going to Fight Island, those are uncomfortable situations. And then flying all the way to England, 24-hour trip, detour, and then making it and still trying to put on a fight. But Tom Aspinall is phenomenal. Jairzinho is no Tom Aspinall. I think this is clear. We shouldn't overthink it. Jairzinho literally has a knockout or bust chance. And I feel like if you're worried about parlaying Volkov here, like I said, you can hedge it out by Jairzinho by KO because he's not winning a decision. Final prediction here for this. Give me Alexander Volkov by 4th round TKO. Moving on down to the co-main event. We got Dan 50K Ige versus Movsar Evloev. Now, Dan Ige to me has been such an exciting fighter to watch. I've been a fan of him. I like his work. I love his boxing. I love his toughness. And I love how game he is. And the fact that he is hard to really put out of there. He keeps coming. He's relentless. So I'm going to give all the credit to Dan Ige just off the bat. And in the same breath, I'm going to take it back from him. Yes, he's fought the elite. Yes, he's hung in there, but he's clearly not an elite fighter, right? Maybe honestly outside the 15 when it comes to the ability of what Dan Ige possesses. Yes, he could crack. Yes, he can wrestle. Yes, he has ability. And at 30 years of age, there's definitely room for improvement, and there's definitely room for him to get better. Now, Movsar Evloev to me is what I believe him to be. People try to knock his striking. I think his striking is educated. It's not very pretty. He doesn't really have that type of explosive speed in the strikes, but he pops out the jab. He throws the hook. He's very clever. He doesn't stay in the pocket too much to get hit. And he has a dominant grappling game and persistent wrestling. I do like the idea that Movsar might have his first opportunity here to get a finish against Dan Ige, just based on the courses of their careers at this point. We are going to see Movsar at his best version, and we are seeing Dan Ige at a version of being through very tough fights, right? Clearly realizing that he's not going to get a title shot. He's not going to be in title contention at this very moment. Obviously, he goes and rattles off 5 straight wins. He's a resilient guy, and maybe he gets it done. But I think at this point, even when I was listening to him talk, he said he wants to be known as the guy that fought the best. And I think Movsar wants to be the best. And in the co-main event spot, Movsar obviously has to do something spectacular here. He says finish in the first round, and I'm going to believe him on his words. He needs to get a finish to get himself to where he belongs. And I'm going to go with Movsar Evloev, second round TKO. I think he's going to flat out Dan Ige, put the hooks in, and just pound him out into submission until the ref pulls him off. Give me Movsar Evloev by second round TKO. It's plus 330, and I love this spot here for him, where this is a complete opportunity where Movsar is going to be able to shoot himself into the top 5 if he goes out there and gets the finish on Ige. Moving on down, we got Mike Trizano versus Lucas Almeida, and Lucas is dropping down to lightweight here. Dropping down to featherweight, and Mike Trizano is going up against a former lightweight. Now, loved Lucas Almeida in his Contender Series fight. What a fight. What a fun fight to go and rewatch. Daniel Zhalgas, very, very talented individual. And I got to give credit to both guys there. Lucas came out hot, 93 strikes, I believe, in the first round. Not too crazy with his jab, just power hooks. And the only concern I'm going to have in this situation for me, because I'm going to be looking here at the dog, is the fact that he kind of emptied the tank early in this fight, in my opinion. He does have situations late in fights where you get stoppages, even in the 5th round, so he's able to maintain the pace. And it's not like he was giving nothing in the 2nd and 3rd, but the 90 strikes dropping to 20 and then 23, it allowed Zhalgas to kind of get back in the fight and pick him apart. There was an obvious size advantage that his opponent had over him in that spot. He was able to pick him apart with the jab. Here now we got a Tiger Showman guy in Mike Trizano who likes to bang. He does have a decent jab, but he's going to be in situations as well where he's going to like to throw hooks. I think Lucas coming down is going to have the power advantage. I think he's going to have the ferocity, right? This is his chance here to, stake a claim with his heavy finish rate. And as much as I like Mike Trizano, he just doesn't jump off the screen to me when I watch him. Just a decent fighter. And I feel like you got to be a really good fighter to beat a guy like Lucas Almeida. And at that plus 200 tag, you're begging me to get involved. The weight cut to featherweight is going to be interesting. He did look a little sucked out, but I'm hoping he will fill out because he did look like the bigger man. I think the power is going to be something to deal with here. And I like the submission upside. Give me Lucas Almeida, second round KO. I'm picking 2 guys that haven't been finished to get finished, but I see the play here. Lucas Almeida is dangerous. Moving on down here, we got Poliana Botelho versus Karine Silva. Now, as much as I would love to get involved in this fight, Poliana Botelho, rewatching some of her film, she's definitely got some power in her hands, but she's very flat-footed, no lateral movement. Doesn't really throw in combinations, although she does throw a mean body kick. She does throw a mean overhand right. She tends to get tired in all her fights. She's an older woman here. Although in the weigh-ins today, I did think she had a pretty decent size advantage over Karine, and it's shocking because she used to fight at strawweight, and we got Karine fighting in as high as bantamweight. But Karine does have, to me, the opportunity to go out here, land takedowns, and really dominate this fight when it comes to the grappling exchanges. Now, both girls have proven to really get tired as the fight goes along. So, as much as I'm not comfortable of being on any person's side here, we just got to look at the idea. Poliana's coming off a 13-month layoff. She could be fairly improved. She could just be fairly, the same. She could be pretty much the same. She switched coaches, so this could be a benefit or it could be a negative. It's hard to really gauge what version we're going to get of her. We've seen Karine fight 7 months ago, and we also seen her getting pressured in a fight with that tank of a woman she was fighting, Q Yan. Very dangerous and aggressive and physical fighter, but the smaller fighter nonetheless. And we also saw Karine really get tired and kind of just throw a Hail Mary guillotine in here. So I don't feel comfortable on either side here. But if there's someone that I'm going to say is constantly going to be improving every time you see her, she's on a roll right now. But Botelho coming here losing 3 out of her last 5. And we got Karine on a roll here. 28 years of age, grappling ability. She said she worked extremely hard for this camp. And it's still, to me, just a toss-up. But I'm going to say Karine Silva has made miraculous improvements in her time off versus the course of Poliana being off for a 13-month layoff, changing coaches, and recovering from injuries. But I would not be surprised if Botelho wins. She's a live dog, that's for sure, and it is a pick'em. So I'm going to go with the young stud in Karine Silva, and I think she pulls off a close fight. And if it doesn't go down to a split decision, maybe wraps up a rear naked choke in the first round. But I'm going to go Karine Silva by decision. Moving on down here, we got a flyweight bout between Ode Osbourne and Zarrukh Adashev. 4-3, definitely not a good example of how decent of a fighter he is. And Ode Osbourne, to me, is just absolutely dynamic. 8 inches of reach advantage, wrestling background, superior athlete when it comes to this flyweight division. Zarrukh Adashev, to me, is a little small. He's got decent kickboxing skills, but to me, he is just a kickboxer. I feel like if Ode Osbourne goes out here and lands his power shots, which, most guys have not really fared well to the shots of Ode Osbourne, when he lands, he gets your respect. Zarrukh Adashev has also showed a liking to kind of fight on the back foot in his fights, moving laterally and staying away, but he has to come towards Ode to close the distance to land his own shots. Decent leg kicks on Adashev's side. This fight's definitely going to be competitive, but I like Ode Osbourne. He has more tools in his bag. He's got power, dynamic ability here. I don't see Zarrukh finishing Ode in the first round, but I could see Ode finishing him in the first round. And, a lot of people having a bit of complaints of his fight with CJ Vergara. I mean, that was in a big venue with crowd. CJ Vergara is a dog. You saw him wear out Klidson Rodriguez. He is not going away, and CJ has constant forward pressure, and I don't think Zarrukh Adashev brings that. And not to mention just the experience of Vergara. That's why I had to play on him against Klidson Rodriguez. And watching that fight with Ode, I had a lot of respect for him going forward. I said, that's a guy I want to look at. The win over Ryan Benoit, not that spectacular. And Mudarji outstruck him. Tyson Nam put him out. I like Ode Osbourne here by finish, and I think he gets it done. Moving on down the card here, we got Alonzo Menifield versus Askar Mozharov, Ukrainian fighter. They call him the Ukrainian Conor McGregor. I've been hearing a lot of, issues with his record. It's constantly been changing. It was like 27-5. Now it's 19-12. Weird situation here. He's definitely a guy that's just going to bum rush you in the first round and hope for the best. I don't think he stands a chance here against Alonzo Menifield. And you can see by the way the betting line is moving. people are just hammering the Alonzo Menifield line. He's minus 250, and in all honesty, you might still get value on that. The fact that he's minus 175 by finish, value on that. The under 1.5, value on that. I think this fight ends in the first round. I think if you like Alonzo Menifield plus 140 first round, you're sitting pretty. I think Alonzo Menifield gets it done and finishes Askar in the first round brutally. Moving on down, we got Felice Herrig versus Karolina Kowalkiewicz. Both girls combined for 8 straight losses. Another fight where you don't really know how to attack it. When I look at their prior match, Karolina clearly beat her handedly. It was a split decision, but it was a handy beating. And there was a certain situation too where Karolina jumped to her back and pulled guard trying to go for the submission. There's some stuff Karolina does that it seems very, very low IQ. The reason why I can't even bet her, even though she won the last fight. Felice Herrig, definitely can't say she has aspirations of coming back here and winning a fight. Maybe she wants to get a bit of redemption. But I do think in this situation, I do think Karolina definitely wants the win more. They're both age girls. It's going to go to the cards, in my opinion. And just based on, the fact of the matter that Karolina had the W prior, I'm going to say she gets it done, but she has low fight IQ, so I would not put my money on it. But I'm going to go with Karolina Kowalkiewicz, and I'm going to say she gets it done by unanimous decision. Moving on down, we got a lightweight bout between Joe Solecki and Alex De Silva. This is a dog that, in my opinion, will be barking. Joe Solecki, fantastic grappler, not too good with the hands. Really, having difficulty in the grappling exchanges with guys like Jim Miller, Jared Gordon. I'll give him a little bit of a pass in that matter because of the cardio and because of the jiu-jitsu background. But he definitely had the size advantage in those matchups and wasn't really able to dominate as far as the grappling goes. He climbed up on Austin Hubbard's back, was able to get the rear naked choke. That was fantastic. Put on a decent display against Matt Wyman. But, shout out to Jordan Levitt. He finished Matt Wyman brutally. And we can't play MMA math here, but the competition Alex Silva has gone up against in his young career, having a record of 21-3. Yes, he does slow down a bit. Listen, he made his UFC debut at 23 years old against a guy with 31 fights 31 professional fights, and a UFC veteran at the time. Goes out there, handles Rodrigo Vargas. Yeah, you still may say, oh, he didn't finish him. This is still a young kid at the time, 24 years old, and then has a close match with Brad Riddell. That, to me, Brad Riddell sitting in the top 15 of lightweights in the division, and you having a close contest with him, really pushing him in that first round. I gotta say, you pushing Brad Riddell to those limits, making him drop the first round. There's only improvements I could see him making here. And just the fact that Alex De Silva does have the idea to mix it up, because I think his striking is pretty good. It's better than Joe Solecki's. My only worry here is, can his gas hold up? But Joe Solecki has not looked good when the fights extend either. And I do believe Alex De Silva is going to give him a lot to think about: the striking, the counter wrestling, or taking Joe Solecki down. When Joe Solecki was taken down, he really didn't have much to offer from his back. He's kind of a good top player and a bad player on the bottom. So if Alex De Silva gets him down, let's say he exhausts him out with the scrambling, it could be a situation where De Silva gets a win here. And I like the dog here. I'm going to go with Alex De Silva, and I'm going to say he wins by unanimous decision. I think he pulls it off 29-28. Maybe Joe Solecki, steals a late third round based on some top pressure. But I'm going to go ahead and believe that Joe Solecki does not offer enough threats to Alex De Silva for him to beat him in those first 2 rounds. Give me Alex De Silva by unanimous decision. 14 fights, guys. Moving on down, we got Damon Jackson versus debutant here, Daniel Argueta. Bantamweight coming up in the featherweight, and having a featherweight debut against a very talented fighter in Damon Jackson, who even I really didn't have some belief in him. I bet against him with Kamala Kirk and was really impressed with the way he handled that situation. As much as Daniel Argueta does have a wrestling background, think he's undersized here. He's going up against a dog in Damon Jackson, an underrated fighter in Damon Jackson, a cardio machine, heavy puncher, and a finisher. Daniel hasn't showed me enough, even on the regional scene, for me to pick him in this spot. The line has ballooned all the way up. Fortis MMA is probably going to have a good night here on this card. Give me Damon Jackson, and give me Damon Jackson by Darce-choke, second round. I think he wears out Daniel and really gives him a veteran lesson in the UFC. Moving on down, we got a lightweight bout between Benoit Saint-Denis versus Niklas Stolze. Man, I took a shot at Niklas Stolze against Jared Gordon. I thought his striking was, I thought his striking was pretty elite. I loved his leg kicks. I loved his counter wrestling. I thought he would have it, I thought he would have that fight in the bag. He came off as a 2-1 favorite too as well. And he got put out, man. Jared Gordon has that type of finishing ability. And I'm going to give him credit. That's 9 months ago. He's dropping down a weight class. If I'm not mistaken, I don't believe he's fought at lightweight before, but let me just confirm that, because he did take a fight at short notice against Amir, and that could be maybe the reason why he continued to fight at lightweight. So look, this is the first time he's coming down to lightweight. He looked very drawn out at the weigh-ins, and it doesn't really give you too much confidence in him as a dog, although he does still have, oh, look at this. So he did fight at lightweight. He was 24 years old. And what date was this? When I clicked there, 2018. So about 4 years ago. And as you can see, it looked like he had a couple welterweight bouts. And then he took the short notice jump to fight Ramazan Amir. You got to give him credit for that. And then Jared Gordon here. So two guys that are very capable fighters and tough guys. But losses nonetheless, right? Losses nonetheless. We got a guy in Benoit Saint-Denis who came in undefeated and probably went through one of the worst beatdowns you'll see in their UFC debut. In that fight, you saw the crowd almost booing the referee to stop the fight because of just how brutal it was. That wasn't long ago, right? That fight was what? Look at that, nearly 6-7 months ago, right? And in a situation like this, there's no way he got back to training after a butt whooping like that, man. I'm telling you. There's no way. Look at that. 6 months, 3 weeks. There's no way. He had a 30-month suspension, and he only had 3 months here to prepare for this. I don't know if his chin's ready. That was a lot of that was a lifetime of damage he took here, and he's coming in as the favorite against the guy Niklas Stolze, who went off as a favorite against Jared Gooden. And I think him getting finished in the first round is giving him a bit of trouble. It does give me a little bit of, making me feel a little bit better about my dog shot here, as far as knowing he fought at lightweight prior. I like the length, I like the striking, and he has a bit of grappling ability too. You saw he was able to hang around and counter Russell Ramazan Amir, and even throw up nasty knees, and even take him down. I think Benoit's going to go straight for it, try to get him down in the first round, and I just need Niklas Stolze to last, because there is holes in Benoit's striking ability, and I think Stolze could take advantage of it. I'm taking the dog here, Niklas Stolze, and I'm going to take him to win by TKO late third round. Moving on down here, we got a bantamweight scrap between Tony Gravely and Johnny Munoz Jr. Johnny Munoz is clearly the underdog of the week. A lot of people are very excited to take him here and bet against my boy Tony Gravely. Listen, Tony Gravely has let me down in some spots. I'm not going to lie to you. He's let me down in some spots. The Nate Menez one was a horrible, horrible one to deal with. And also, I didn't bet against him in Brett Johns, but rewatching that fight, it was a tough spot there to see him. He's an explosive athlete, heavy hands, great wrestling ability. But as far as that's concerned, he does look like he's thinking out there too much. He does gas out a little bit. Even though he being a smaller guy compared to Johnny Munoz, it makes me a bit worried to see him gas out like that. Now, the size advantage clearly on Munoz's side. But I don't see Munoz scaring Tony Gravely as far as with those little jabs he throws. He jabs and backs up. He doesn't really commit to any of his strikes. He needs to get this fight to the ground. Those takedowns he went for, I don't know if he's going to be able to pull that off against a guy low to the ground like Tony Gravely. I do believe Tony Gravely can stuff takedowns, And if he could just manage to, operate in good submission defense, I think he can land the heavier shots here and really rock Johnny Munoz and win this fight. I gotta go with the experience. I gotta go with the guy who has multiple ways to win and is able to win out decisions. And come on, 22-7, the experience on Tony Gravely, the wrestling background. Johnny Munoz, 29 years old, not enough fights to me, and I just don't think he has the finishing ability to really get rid of a guy like Tony Gravely. So give me Tony Gravely. I am going against the trend. I am bucking the trend because I was looking at Munoz earlier, but when you really dig in, the heavy hands of Gravely and the grit, man, that wrestling grit, I feel like he's going to win out against Johnny Munoz. And we haven't seen Munoz on his back, so we really don't know what he offers as far as his back submissions and his reversals, right? He's never been really taken down and had to reverse. So we really don't know what type of fight that could be. And we've seen Tony Gravely in those situations. So give me Tony Gravely by unanimous decision. Moving on down here, we got Jeff Molina versus Zhalgas Zhumagulov. I like Jeff Molina a lot. 24 years of age, going up against Zhalgas Zhumagulov, a proven veteran here at the flyweight division. 33 years of age, gritty, tough, heavy hooks, decent wrestling. I think we're in for an upset here. I think we're in for a bit of a step back for Jeff Molina. I just don't know if he's going to have the physicality to match Zhalgas. I really don't. I also don't believe he has enough reach. I don't believe he has enough power for Zhalgas to respect his ability. I think Zhalgas is going to close the distance. He's going to find Jeff Molina, who doesn't really move too crazy laterally, take him down, ground and pound, win the first round. Jeff Molina puts together a decent second round with volume. It gets caught with a hook and dropped. Zhalgas steals that round, even though Molina's winning with the volume. Molina comes out desperate, throws together a lot of combinations, maybe rocks Zhalgas in the third round. Zhalgas shoots a takedown, rides out top control. They give the third round to Jeff Molina anyways, and we see 29-28. That's what I'm predicting, and I bet you that's going to happen. I like the dog shot here on Zhalgas Zhumagulov. He's been in there with dogs, man. He's been in there with way better competition and held his own and hasn't been beat up, right? He hasn't been beat up. Manel Kape has dynamic power in his hands. And even him, in that sense, putting out Zhalgas Zhumagulov, I mean, that was fantastic. I picked Kape there, but I didn't see him putting him out like that. I thought it was going to be drawn out. But Zhalgas was chasing him and was being extra aggressive. And the movement of Manel Kape, like, come on, guys. The striking ability of Manel Kape versus Jeff Molina, it's not close. Jeff is flat-footed, great volume, but he's not laterally moving and, throwing check left hooks and getting out of the way Manel Kape was. I like the physicality. I like the veteranship. I like the battle-tested guy here in Zhalgas Zhumagulov that needs a win. He don't win this, he's getting cut. And I love the shape he's in, man. Give me Zhalgas Zhumagulov. Try saying that 30 times by unanimous decision. 29-28. Moving on down here. Tough fight to call, man. The tape on Rinat Fakhramonov is not that good. And Andreas Michailidis looks good for 5 minutes and falls off a cliff. I don't really know how this is going to turn out. It's hard for me to gauge. But one thing I do like here is that the fight is going to end before the distance, right? Or end before they hit the cards. I like the under in this fight. I think it's minus 188. Similar price to the Renat and the minus 200. Actually, a little bit more value in that sense. And I like Andre Michailidis, but he's dropping down to 170. He really looked drawn out. He looked sucked out. And if he was gassing out at 185, that cut looked horrible, man. I'm being honest. I don't know if he even makes it 5 minutes against this guy. Maybe he puts up a good fight in the beginning. Renat's strength of schedule hasn't been good, so you're watching him destroy these guys, but definitely, guys that I wouldn't say are UFC level, but, maybe similar level to a guy like Andreas Michailidis. I mean, he hasn't looked that good, but he is coming down, he fought at light heavyweight, he fought at middleweight, and now he's fighting at welterweight. We could see the best version of him here. A fight I really don't want to pick a winner in, but I do like the finish regardless. Both guys combined for tons of finishes in their career. And I just like that spot. I think we see these guys get dropped or submitted. And that's what I'm going to suggest is the best play on here. I'm going to pick Rinat to get the W. I think he is, the rightful favorite as far as, coming here with a 20-2 record and looking very experienced and hungry. And a guy in Andreas Michailidis that's just not looking too good. And he does have decent striking ability, but he's consistently getting tired in a lot of these fights. And the one win he has against KB Bullard, I mean, that guy's not made for the UFC. I think Benoit would probably finish KB Bullard. So I'm going to take Benoit here, and I'm going to take him by first round stoppage. Now, the first fight of the night, a fight I'm very excited for, and a very compelling spot here. Now, I'm picking Erin Blanchfield to get it done. I think she could even get the sub here in this spot, and I do like that spot. If you're going to play Erin Blanchfield, I say forget the decision. Take her to get the finish here and plus 200 and ride that value. Wouldn't parlay here because JJ Aldrich is a tough girl, and I'm coming off a situation where I bet JJ Aldrich 3 times in a row. Although I don't believe, Erin Blanchfield is as good as these girls here, especially Jillian Robinson. I like her pace. I like her pressure. Y'all are going to laugh, but you've seen the joke on the internet about Erin Nurmagomedov. Listen, you watch her fight, it's kind of really Khabib-esque, that pressure. She comes in, the forward pressure. She kind of just throwing strikes out there to get you to react. And she looks like she even got a chin, man. She's been hit a little bit, and she just eats those shots and keeps pressing forward. Now, she's 23 years old. It's a lot of pressure. Minus 500 tag. She could get a little bit of a bet lesson. She's been on a bit of a streak. Maybe she needs a little bit of a setback to really get her back in and refocus right now. Maybe her confidence is riding high, but I don't get the same type of feelings that you would get from a girl in Macy Barber that just believed that she was unstoppable. I do believe Erin Blanchfield knows what to do to these girls, what's her easiest path to victory, and I do like her win condition here against JJ Aldrich. We've seen JJ finish by a Macy Barber, and this is another tee-up spot here. And I like JJ, decent boxing, but I also don't feel like she's going to be able to stand at range and just box with her. Erin Blanchfield is coming for her. She's going to back her up. And I feel like if she gets her down a couple transitions later, I feel like she could sink in the rear naked choke. She almost finished Miranda Maverick, who I believe would have the strength advantage over JJ Aldrich. She just cut through her like a knife through butter. Give me Erin Blanchfield by submission. But, guys, taking JJ Aldrich by decision, plus 1,000 odds or whatever they have it at, it's worth a sprinkle. It's worth a sprinkle. Throw a little pizza change on it, and take the risk, because plus 400, that's not a fair. It's not a fair price on JJ Aldrich, man. Not a fair price. She's a competent fighter, and as good as Erin Blanchfield looks, she's 23 years old. She could have an off night. She could have a setback. Doesn't mean she's not going to become the fighter you think she is. But Erin Blanchfield by submission. Put a little sprinkle on JJ Aldrich by decision. It's worth the shot. Yeah, we're finished. We got 14 fights on the card. And obviously, we're not going to go too crazy with our unit counts. We're going to keep everything low. And we're going to try not to gas out and overshoot these parlay plays, right? Keep it simple. We got a nice pay-per-view coming up. So I'm going to show you the parlays I'm working with. I do got a big Hail Mary on some finishes that I'm going to put against the screen. And I do like my other parlay here where I just stick to who are the best available fighters. And, to me, that's the way you're going to win. Things are going to happen in the octagon, but if you stick with the best available fighters, you're going to win out more times than you lose. So once again, welcome to Southpaw Picks. Thank you for showing up. We had a week off. And like I said, let's keep winning, man. Let's keep getting this money and beat up the bookies. Thank you again for coming. This is Southpaw Picks. Catch you later.